Ghosting. That sudden, baffling disappearance that's become a hallmark of modern dating and, let's be honest, friendships too. One minute, you're talking, things are flowing, and the next, it's just radio silence. Today, we're going to dig into this, to look at a way of thinking that can help us finally make sense of that silence.
But seriously, why does it hurt so much? You know the feeling, right? Just being left in limbo, rereading messages, trying to figure out what you did wrong. A clear no? Yeah, that stings. But this unanswered void, it just feels so much more confusing. And it can really eat at you. Well, it turns out there's a really solid psychological reason for that.
And to help us get our heads around it, we're looking at the work of psychology educator RJ Starr. He offers this really powerful idea. What if the pain of being ghosted isn't actually a judgment on you or your worth? What if it's about a failure of structure? So to really get this new perspective, we first have to understand what the problem actually is. And it's not just that the person left. No, the real pain comes from the unresolved, unending pause they leave in their wake.
Think about it like this. Rejection, as much as it sucks, it's an ending. It's a period at the end of a sentence. The story is over and you can close the book. But ghosting? That's totally different. The person is gone, yeah, but the story you were writing together just hangs there unfinished. There's no last chapter. It just stops.
And I love how Starr puts it here. Our brains are wired for stories. We need a beginning, a middle, and an end to make sense of things. Ghosting is like a sentence that gets cut off right in the mid. See, your brain hates that. It's a narrative interruption without terminal punctuation, and our minds get stuck in this endless loop trying to figure out how the sentence was supposed to end.
Okay, so if ghosting isn't just someone being cruel or immature, though it can feel that way, what is it? Well, this is the core of the reframe. We need to see it as a psychological maneuver.
Starr defines it as a form of regulation. It's a withdrawal tactic someone uses to deal with their own internal stress. Basically, the relationship got too complicated or intense for them. It went past their personal tolerance level, and disappearing was their way of shutting down their own system to cope. It's about them, not you.
So, what kind of internal strain are we talking about? Well, it could be a whole bunch of things. Maybe it's a deep fear of confrontation. Or maybe the intimacy was growing and it freaked them out. It could be that they lost interest and just couldn't figure out how to say it. Or, and this is a big one, maybe they just needed to see themselves as the good guy and couldn't handle a messy, honest breakup. Disappearing was just the easier option for them.
Okay, so that's what might be going on in their head. But let's flip it. What is happening in our brain, the brain of the person being ghosted, when that shared story gets cut off so suddenly?
It's this mental hamster wheel, right? You've got this story you're building together, then boom, the communication just dies. Immediately, your brain goes into detective mode, scanning for any clue, any signal to explain what happened. But with ghosting, that signal never comes. And so that cognitive loop just stays open, spinning and spinning, searching for an answer it's never going to get.
And of course, the pain of this isn't always the same. Starr calls this narrative density. Look, if you've only been chatting for a few days, getting ghosted is annoying. It messes up a potential story. But if you've been dating for months, or if this is a long-term friend, the narrative density is thick. It's part of your life. And when that disappears, it can feel like your very sense of self is being shaken. The deeper the story, the deeper the wound.
Now this next part is absolutely crucial. When your brain is stuck in that spinning loop, in that total void of information, where does it turn for an explanation? Well, it has no choice but to turn inward.
You see, our minds work on a simple principle. A big event should have a big cause. Someone vanishing from your life is a big event. So you look for a big reason. But since the other person gave you absolutely nothing to work with, your brain has to create the reason itself. And the only data it has access to is you. And that explains perfectly why ghosting so often leads to shame, instead of just good old-fashioned anger. To be angry, you need a target. You need to know what they did wrong. But shame? Oh, shame loves a vacuum. It thrives in that mystery, filling in all the blanks with, it must be me, I must have done something wrong, I'm not good enough.
Okay, that was heavy, I know. We've laid out the problem, we see why it hurts so much. So now, how do we fix it? How do we get off the hamster wheel? This is where we learn how to reframe the silence in a way that actually gives us our power back.
And this right here is the aha moment. This is the whole game changer. The default setting is to think, their silence is a judgment on me. But the structural interpretation flips that completely. It says, their silence is not a verdict on my worth. It is information about their capacity to communicate, their capacity to handle discomfort, their capacity to be a decent human being.
So how do you actually use this? It's a 3-step mental process. First, just see the trap for what it is. Say to yourself, okay, my brain is in a loop because it's missing data. Second, relabel the silence. This isn't about me. This is about their inability to regulate their own feelings. And third, and this is so important, stop letting it spread. Interrupt that thought that says this one event defines you. It doesn't.
And let's be crystal clear about the transaction that's happening here. When someone ghosts you, only one person's system gets stabilized. Theirs. They achieve calm for themselves by taking all that psychological cost, the confusion, the anxiety, the pain, and just handing it off to you. It is a direct transfer of an emotional burden.
So if you remember just one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. Ghosting breaks a story. It messes with the narrative. That's true. But it does not, and it cannot ever be a judgment on your value as a person. It's worth saying again, it interrupts a story. It doesn't decide your worth.
And really internalizing that difference is everything. Look, this isn't a magic wand. It's still going to hurt. You're allowed to be sad and grieve the connection you thought you had. But what this does is it uncouples the pain from the poison. It lets you feel the sadness of the loss without carrying that extra toxic weight of blaming yourself.
And just a final important note as we wrap up. As RJ Starr is clear about in his work, he's an educator and a scholar, not a licensed therapist. All this content is educational. It's a framework for thinking, but it is absolutely not a substitute for professional mental health care. So if you need that, please reach out and get the support you deserve.